be prepared to invest in yourself, and then trust your gut. You know, I mean, make educated decisions, but if you have a vision and it makes sense, then trust that. Okay. There are a couple of deals that, you know, I thought would do a certain thing and they ended up doing a certain thing, but it was for somebody else because I wasn't confident enough that I could get it done.
All right, Mr. Geoffrey Tyson, thanks for coming on the show, man. I appreciate you taking some time.
Hey, Matt, thank you for the invite, man. I always have time to come and share, you know, especially with folks like you who are about delivering service to the investor community. So thanks again for having me.
Absolutely, man. So I've heard that you are called the King of Rehab and you've been around the business for quite some time. If it's all good with you, we'd love to kind of to dive in and figure out how'd you get started? What does your career path look like? And just figure out how we can add value for listeners and entrepreneurs that are tuning in.
I go all the way back to when I was 5 years old, and my parents had home, and we were moving to another home, and they had this. They mentioned this word renting to my uncle, right? And I'm thinking renting, and then I saw him living there, and as I got older, I realized that he was still there, and they told me, here's a check from Uncle Richard, who was still living in the house, you know, and so I obviously didn't catch it at that point, but I was like, man, that was interesting. So the seed was planted, Matt, at an early age, right? And you know, I've been I'm from the northeastern part of the country, and my parents were hardworking folks, and they you know instilled the power of the belief of a dream, right? I mean, I grew up in a time we think it's a crazy time now. in society and the world. I mean, I grew up in a time that was very similar, man. But, you know, I remember talking to my dad, and he was like, man, you know, as I got a little older, I started thinking I wanted to be a playboy and all that. So I said, how do you do it? How do you stay with mom this long? And he said, man, I had a dream. I wanted to have you guys. Oh, man. He showed us that. They showed us that through the years, man. You know, so early on, man, if anybody's out there and you're wanting to do something different, you know, I'm a firm believer that you can do it. And if you master what's going on in the 6 inches between, you know, your ears, everybody's got a shot, right? And so I tell that story early on because that's how my life has been, man. You know, I was that kid that grew up in a family of 5, and I was kind of labeled the dumb kid. I just, hey, you know how kids are, man, right? You know, they make fun of you, and I started to believe that, man. And so I started first grade thinking I was going to do really well. And the school liked me so well, they held me back again. So I was really dumb. Right? But I tell all these things just to let you know that we're going to have adversity, man. You know, and think about when we first faced adversity and how we overcame that, right? And so there's a lot to my story that I don't have time to talk about now, because I do want to talk about real estate, the power of investing. But I want to speak to that audience out there that, you know, has really, and you know how it is, right? I mean, our business, it's all about communication, you know, and understanding how to communicate, making decisions when we're not certain, right? I mean, and when you're starting out in particular, most people, you know, get hung up on, you know, man, am I making the right choice? Well, if I don't understand everything, I won't do anything, you know, so they're stuck in the analysis of paralysis, however that's said. I mess it up every time I say it. And they don't ever take any action. So, you know, I hope that today we can talk about some experiences that will push them off the edge. You know, jump way down. You know, because I know this business is really, it's a great business, and there's no better time than now to get involved in real estate. And
Absolutely.
so, you know, and so I, if it's okay, I'm just going to kind of talk a little bit more about, you know, how life was, and hopefully people identify that they have within them the ability to overcome the things that they're facing right now. They've done it before, right? You know, because I told you I was that dumb kid. We're going back to that story a little bit, Matt, and why that was important. As life has a way of doing favors for you sometimes. And for me, I went from that skinny kid with a big head and big ears. They called me Jumbo and all this stuff to an athlete, right? So now I was still the dumb kid label, but I was the athlete. I found a reason, found my reason. When I was going to be a professional football player, man, and that's what I focused on. And I went through struggles and all that stuff, and still had a terrible grade point average, and didn't care now because I had a goal. I'm going to be an NFL football player. And people told me, man, you can make it and all this stuff, right? So I struggled through school and got out. And hey, my first step, I got a scholarship to a Division I school who had just won the national championship. So you call me the dumb kid if you want to, right? I'm on my way. Oh man, there's power and focus.
What school was that you went to college?
It was an American conference, so it was the Division I MAC conference. It was Ball State University. I had opportunities, and this is just a little side note, to go to some of the, I think, Big Ten schools at that time, because that's changed now. But my grade point average represented, a guy that either, if you want to come here, you got to go to, I think they call it junior college or something for a year. And I had an ego, and I'm like, well, hey, this school, they're Division I, they just won the championship. They had all this stuff going on, so I'll go there, right? And still thinking about, by then I had met someone else that had some real estate, and he had some rental properties, and he was high level executive, so business seemed to make sense to me, and real estate was still there, because I'm thinking, rental, get checks, not doing anything, collecting money, passive income, started educating myself there. And it's a good thing, man, because my football dream ended abruptly my freshman year. So now I'm injured, I'm the dumb kid, and I'm in college. Right? And I got to tell you, Matt, man, there were some tough moments. Now what do I do, right? I mean, what's next for me? All right. But quitting wasn't an option. I think I talked about what I say my parents showed us about the will to work and tenacity and set a goal. And I said, okay, well, listen, Geoff, you can't mess up this full ride scholarship. You can't survive with 1.99, which is what I had. Right. So what's next, man? And so the athletic training and the focus on both and diversity. All right, really try. And I left out a part of the story. I'm going to share it because I think he doesn't mind, and I don't want people to they can judge me however they want to. But yes, I was one of those kids where I was given a grade I shouldn't have gotten, but it was on condition. It was a professor who knew my mom and dad and knew I was a sluffer and knew I wasn't paying, that he told me, you have to pass this class or you won't, this is going to impact your scholarship. I said, oh yeah, I got this. Of course I failed the class, right? And he's looking at me cross-eyed now because he knows that the scholarship that I had waiting is depending on, I put him in a bad situation, right? But he told me something, Matt, and I'll never forget it. He said, listen, this isn't about you, young man, because you obviously don't understand what's going on. And I know, you have some things, big dreams and all these other things, but if not for your parents, I wouldn't make this decision. He said, but if you mess this up, I'm going to bleep, 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 because he was that kind of guy. And so he gave me a chance. What I'm saying, you never know what the chances are, and that resonated with me, Matt.
Right.
Now and so I figured out how to learn, and I picked business as my major, and I had no prep courses in business, no geography. It was probably the highest class I ever paid any attention to, but math, I was good at math. And so anyhow, I got through that, man, and had a great corporate career. And got reintroduced actually to real estate in the mid-90s. So I'm dating myself a little bit. I know I don't look like that. I'm pretty. But so I, again, passive income. I was in corporate America, and so I got promoted a lot. So I moved everywhere I went. I'd buy a house. So we had 5 or 6 properties by accident because it wasn't really even the plan. And so that's how I got reintroduced to passive income. And, that worked out well for a while, man. And then went through some other things and found myself back in 2014 saying, you know what, I really want to do this full time. And I had another business that was working well, and that really helped me prepare for that King of Rehab name, right? Because we realized that in order to get in this business, we wanted to have a niche. So I'm talking to that audience out there now that, there's so many things in real estate that you can do, right? It's crazy.
Yeah.
Narrow down your focus, find something, and I don't have time to really talk about what I really think should happen. You can do and understand, and then grow from there, right? And so we've been, the last 6-7 years, been involved in over 100 or so projects, either on our own or through other people. Not a lot, but projects that would normally take 6 months to a year because they were raggedy to where you probably should have torn them down. And learned a lot, and was able really, Matt, to use what I learned in corporate America in terms of communication and negotiations. Investors were there. Don't mean to just ramble, man.
No, it's good. The recording's good, but like every maybe like 45 seconds, there's a little glitch. So I'm kind of like holding off to see, if you keep going or not, because it freezes, but still valuable, still can hear a lot of this stuff, man. And that's cool to hear that background going through school. And I feel similar. Like I wasn't really that into grades, and I don't consider myself that smart, but I found an outlet for me in real estate where I figured out a few things that I have strengths for, which, the numbers I get, putting in the work and taking a lot of risk and building teams. So I'm kind of curious, like, I know you kind of opened your eyes early on as a kid with your uncle and the rent situation, but what are some of the big setbacks or big challenges that you ran into early on when you were getting started? And how did you kind of push through those to get to where you are today?
Man, that's a great question, and I will talk about some current setbacks, right? That's what's going on, and my biggest thing, if I had to do it all over again, is what we're doing now is focus on building a marketing presence. Okay, I built our business the old-fashioned way through building relationships with real estate agents and really driving for dollars, all right? And that process worked. But I didn't mention that we had done business in multiple locations. So Midwest was a market, the northeastern part of the country was a market, and now I'm talking to you from Texas. So, electronic marketing will certainly have made life a lot easier, right? And with COVID coming in and closing down the world, we fortunately had started to pivot into that arena. But I didn't build that. It's hard to scale that, right? And we're talking about creating processes and systems that are scalable, repeatable, I found myself over leveraged on occasion because I'm one of those aggressive guys, right? Well, if there's a way to figure it out, then we can figure it out. If I don't know how, I'm humble enough to get some direction with people. So, and when you get over leveraged, you want to make sure you have a lot of capital, reserve capital to bail yourself out.
Right.
When we were doing, we always kept 5 or 6 projects going on, and we started to get 6 to 7 projects. And that I got to tell you, two things. We didn't have the capital in position, and we didn't have the strength in our contracting team.
Okay.
So, one guy we had, he was doing 3 or 4, but he was helping us build other contractor bases. but he was a young guy, man, and he got sick and died on us. I mean, I don't say it like that. I love him. He was almost like a son. So when that happened, all the emotional things around that. But then, I was kind of like, okay, starting from scratch. And in this business, that if you lose a contractor or have to fire a contractor and replace him, I mean, you're gonna lose 30 days at
Right.
least.
Right.
And the real good guys are busy. So it just slowed the whole machine down. So now, right, we've been fortunate to get them done and sell them right away, right? But then when you get delays in the construction process with some of the other jobs, and you're carrying 10 to 20,000 a month just on the debt service for some of the loans you have, you better be having, you need to have some cash flow coming in, right? And we did, and we managed. But the lesson in all that was we had to pause. Because I told you before, I'm a fighter almost to my fault, right? And I learned a lesson long ago that if you borrow money, you better pay it back, right? I mean, you got one shot at it, man, and their money is our money. So we had to stop for a moment, kind of hit the reset button, and some of these deals that had big payoffs in the sky. I mean, because it all payoffs in the sky until you get to the bank.
Mm-hmm.
The numbers look good, the deals look good, they were in some great areas. But if I hadn't stopped and readjusted things, I don't know we would have got there.
Right. Absolutely.
There's some humbleness in saying, hey, I may have messed up here. I got a problem.
Right.
But what I learned from that was I got with some coaching and my mentoring, and we looked at everything and we repositioned a lot of the deals. But before all that happened, I got everything together, put a plan together, and went and talked to all the lenders involved and said, hey, listen, as an investor and a person, there's some things going on, but here's the solution that's going to help us get this thing resolved. And as scary as that was to do that, they were like, hey, man, listen, most of our guys would have just let the hatchet fall on them and wonder what happened. But you were brave enough to come in here and admit that you kind of, got over leveraged and got a little ego involved and all that stuff that goes along with it. And so we were able to save that. So long answer to, getting in over your head cash flow wise and then figuring out how to do it. And then not having appropriate teams in place when you're doing multiple positions.
Right. Yeah, and it's good to go communicate with those banks and keep them up to date, and they can kind of work through things with you a little bit. That's great. What there's a lot of people out there that they don't know how to take that first step, and they're trying to figure out how to buy their first property. And what are things that you view to help people? Like, hey, because from where I'm sitting, I'm 13 years in, and it's just kind of second nature at this point. But there is a point where you're just scared and you don't know how to take that first step. And we're talking big money. Most people never deal with 200, 300,000. And then all of a sudden in real estate, that's normal, maybe even low numbers for where you're at. How would you encourage people to feel comfortable and to make that jump and to get started and work on changing their life and getting all the benefits that real estate can provide?
That's a powerful question with a lot of different ways to go. So I'm going to just kind of speak to a way that we've found to be most effective with these people. And number one, because I didn't do what I'm about to say, I think it's a benefit to share it. Number one is kind of you want everybody goes, HGTV and YouTube and everywhere you can go to get fired up on real estate. Go buy this house and you can do this rehab, and so everybody gets rehab minded, or they want to do no money down deals and all this stuff that they hear, and they never really stop and think about, okay, well, I'm new to the business. I don't have any experience in real estate investing. I don't have any experience in construction. I don't really have, I'm a school teacher, or I'm a doctor, or I have this other profession, and I'm busy. I'm a parent. I have a limited amount of time, And so then they talk about, oh, I got to take my IRA and do this rehab project. I give them examples of things, that as we talk about it, they're like, well, I was kind of thinking about doing that, but now that you mentioned that, I really was only going to be able to spend 5 hours a week.
Right.
And I mean, when you get into the rehab thing, man, it owns you.
Right.
Especially when you're new. So I just have a conversation with them and open their mind up to all the things they think they want to do first, right? And because people have an opinion, Matt, and with that opinion, they have an idea of how things are supposed to go. And some people they don't listen. You can't help everybody.
Mm-hmm.
You can't push a wet noodle. A man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. So I try, I'll try and find an audience that really is wanting to get started.
Right.
I'm pretty straightforward. I ask some questions, that some people may not ask, and then I talk to them about, just really 4 simple things, man. Learning how to assess the value. It's one thing you want to do all these things, but if you can learn how to understand the value of what you're buying, number 1. Number 2, what it's worth to fix it, and whether you're going to have a passive income or rehab. 3, what's worth afterwards, ARV, obviously we talk about, and then some strategies. That's it. So, and you don't do that alone. You have real estate agents that help you all throughout that. Here's how you get that. So we just kind of go through real life conversations. Do you see yourself being able to pick up the phone and call a real estate agent and introduce yourself? And knowing that they're the ones that are going to help you understand where to get the deals and how to assess the deals, so you have an expert in your ear and not YouTube philosophies. I love YouTube and I'm not bad at it, but how many people do you meet that I say, oh, I got this training, I know how to do this. I saw this training, I know how to do that, and never did any of it. How many people do you meet?
Yeah, that's why I like what you said. One of the takeaways I had was trying to understand how serious somebody is and what level of a commitment that they want to have, because you can quickly realize like, hey, maybe this isn't for you. If you're planning to put 1 hour a day or whatever, maybe you should be thinking about passive investments and syndications. And that's really important. Like you said, there's so many different aspects, and, you can have different paths, but the one that you're taking, I assume, and we're going to get into that in a second, and the one I'm taking for sure is more of a full-time thing where I couldn't do what I'm doing unless I go all out, and the way I view it, because it's competitive and things move fast. And, if you're a doctor or whatever, and you're at work, well, there's 5 other entrepreneurs going to look at that deal. And so it's gone.
It's gone.
Yeah. So there's different paths. But I'd love to hear what does it look like now for you? Like what's your business look like? What's the direction? What's kind of getting you up and motivated with everything that you have going on?
Well, I'll speak to the family side of it. I'm a pop now, a grandfather. So from the personal side, we just had a 3-month-old.
Congrats.
My wife sent me pictures of her, and so that's what gets me up, right? I mean, because it's truly that 3rd generation that signifies the legacy. So, but in terms of business, it's really, I've stepped back in the last 18 months and really kind of pivoted in terms of what our focus is. We historically were focused on clever transactions, no money down, those types of basic deals, and rehab, a ton of that. But over the years, so we've been building a small passive income portfolio, both, in the traditional side, Matt, and then short-term housing, the short-term rental space, not just vacation rentals, but taking advantage of some of the government housing needs that are now being sponsored, federal dollars for veterans or for substance abuse for single moms, and creating, those types of housing opportunities for those people that run those kinds of services. So kind of in the short-term transitional rental, space, and really So we're still doing, we just put a house under contract now in Galveston that will be more of a rehab, a burg type property with new construction component on it. So we've done some new construction in the past, so we kind of like that. But I'm a little hesitant because there's still, in my opinion, some question marks on the availability of materials and the cost and all of that. But this particular deal just makes sense.
Yeah.
It's in a space where, all said and done, it's going to be worth, close to $900,000, and we're not going to have nearly that much in it, because of how we were able to negotiate the deal down. So passive income, still doing every now and then. I'm in rehab recovery. I'm trying not to buy something that's going to stretch me out or take me away from my focus, which is passive income, training new real estate investors, creating masterminds, and starting to step into understanding more of the commercial side, the small multifamily, 50 to 100 unit stuff. I've got a mentor now kind of guiding me along there. So I'm kind of excited about that.
That's great, man. Yeah, we do a little bit multifamily ourselves. And I think that's really cool that you're learning and adapting and trying to continue to grow and focus on what's important, but still handle the niche that you know how to do, which is the king of the rehab.
Yeah.
And you get to be the king of the passive income soon.
There you go.
I appreciate it, man. So what are things that you would say to entrepreneurs, like any kind of off the top, pointers for people just getting started, lessons that you wish you would have known, like anything that comes to the top of mind?
Yeah, I would say a couple of things. Number one, make sure that you seek mentorship, and mentorship with folks that are actually doing what you want to do, and be willing to make investments in yourself, right? I mean, the whole point of my belief has always been about education. If I'm going to do something, I want someone that can kind of tell me some things so that I can prevent the pitfalls. If I can help you reduce your time and your efforts from decades into days by sharing with you all the mistakes I've made, number one,
Mm-hmm.
and 3 or 4 key things that you can learn from to get off the blocks. Like you said, it's competitive, right? So you want to compete, you want to learn something right away. So surround yourself with folks that are going to help you, fill in the gaps, be that bridge, between the newbie to the experienced person, and be humble enough. Know you need to have it. I mean, and I'm talking to a guy, I'm one of those guys that say, okay, show me a few things and I'll go do it. So if you're like that, you can still be that way, but there's still value in getting some guidance. So number one, be prepared to invest in yourself, and then trust your gut. Make educated decisions, but if you have a vision and it makes sense, then trust that. Okay. There are a couple of deals that I thought would do a certain thing, and they ended up doing a certain thing, but it was for somebody else because I wasn't confident enough that I could get it done.
Right. That's a good one.
So, yeah, give you some counsel, trust your gut, and take some action. Take messy action. Don't be afraid to make a mistake. Don't be afraid to make a decision if you don't have all the answers. Lastly, I'll say, learn to make adversity and fear and challenges and setbacks as a part of your process. Embrace them. Who is it? Sarah Blakely's dad told her, I heard this story, man, about when she was going to school, they'd sit down at the dinner table, Matt, he'd say, so what did you fail at today? Can you imagine what life would be like if you would say, you learn that, hey, if I'm failing, I know that there's something else on the other side.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I've got the experience, man. So just 3 or 4 things.
I love it, man. That's really good. What are ways that we or our listeners can add value for you and what you have going on?
Well, always, We do quite a few things, and I've got a YouTube channel, the Conversations with Geoff, and it talks more about, the whole makeup of decision making, communication, really some self-development tools, and that's something that, it's YouTube, you can find that there. And then real estate focused, we have a Facebook group, Transcending Lives of New Real Estate Investors, Going Beyond Your Limits. And that's where it starts. And we bring people in there, and then from there we introduce them to mastermind workshops and monthly memberships, which can be found at mastermind.com. Just type in Geoff, GEOFFT, and it'll all pop up. We got a lot of free information that we put out there, and we also have created some low entry cost masterminds to get people familiar with us up to the higher level one-on-one opportunities.
That's amazing, man. Well, that's very inspiring, and I appreciate everything. Is there anything else you want to touch on before we get out of here?
Yeah, I'd like to hear from you, Matt, on what's next for you this last quarter. Talk to me about that. What do you see? And what you're currently up to.
Yeah, man. Our big vision. We're building out a brokerage, and we've got a lot of background in being entrepreneurial. We've kind of come to this vision that we want to be the brokerage that teaches the agent how to get the most out of real estate for themselves. So we say, hey, come build your own brand, build your own team, get a 90-10 split. We'll partner with you, and really focused on being different and not trying to make as much money as we can off agents, but rather to work with them and to grow with them. So it's pretty cool, man. We've got 90 plus real estate agents. We're growing pretty quickly. And we're trying to capitalize on this vision that we have, which is life-changing, as you know, and not a lot of brokerages promote it because they don't make money in the short run. So it's been cool to establish what we feel is a true differentiator. Yeah. And at this point, it's just getting our heads down, getting a message out on social media, and then constantly working on the systems to give the agents what they need. We're buying properties with our agents. We're flipping them. We're owning them long term, and it's fun, man. So we're Central Texas, but we're as ambitious as anybody, and we just want to keep pushing forward. And we say we want to make money in and on real estate. So anytime we make commissions, we throw it back in to on real estate. We believe in we work with people. Our agents work with us, not for us, and grow together. So. It's been a long time in the works, but we got a lot of great people, and we're just trying to keep moving forward.
Man, can I say something back to that?
Yeah.
Because we built our business with relationships with real estate agents. So when I hear you talk about that, I mean, it's like, man, that's going to change a lot of their lives, right? Because you expand their understanding of the real estate business,
right?
And give them opportunities that, let's face it, most of them don't even think about.
Right.
And so I'd love to hear more about that, man, because I talk to agents all the time about, so are you watching what's going on?
Right.
And you see where you're going to be the next 3 to 5 years, starting to look at some things differently.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you guys are doing that. So
we're trying, man. Yeah. We got this whole mentality. Everybody's welcome. We do Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 10:30 on Google. We all talk real estate, and it's like you said, like there's a lot out there, and we're trying to open people's mind, and it's pretty special to feel like we have something unique.
Well, I can tell you do.
Thank you.
I'm in a lot of brokerages, and they're still talking about things that, can I just speak freely, are a little antiquated.
Absolutely.
They've been antiquated for a long time, and their dot is still, the dot that was a dot years ago. It doesn't really open their eyes up to. I think it's. You said something, and I'm gonna be quiet. 90-10. I mean, you're willing to reward them for their efforts on top of everything else.
Yeah.
Well, clearly for you, it's not about the money.
Right. No, man, you're right. I mean, it's they make a $10,000 check. We make 1,000. That's a revenue number for us. So we want to go buy properties with them, and we want to go own rentals, and that's what it's about for us. So it's really just trying to get a lot of good people together, and how do we, have more opportunities as a whole, and bring different values together to where we together equal a greater value.
Yeah. Well, you know, what is it? J. Paul Getty said he'd rather have 10% of 100 people than 1%, 100% of one.
Yeah.
You know, and so the power in doing that and serving it's tremendous, man. So I'm gonna follow you with that and love to, you know, anything I can do to help you in that space. You know, I love that because I think it's a need that they don't yet understand they need.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I appreciate it, and love to stay in touch, you know, and try and help you out. We'll put some of your links in the show note to your channel, and let's just keep hustling, man, and let's stay in touch.
I'll do that. I'll do that for sure, man. I really appreciate it again. Hopefully we deliver some value to your audience.
I think so. I think there's a lot. Yeah, I appreciate you, man. So let's go get after it today, and thanks again.
Thank you, Matt. Talk to you, buddy.